Here's Mike Winters.
And good morning. It is 18 minutes after 8 o'clock, and joining us in the studio this morning, your local New York Life agent, Damon Graham, back with us. Morning, Damon.
Good morning, Mike.
How are you doing today?
I am fabulous as always.
So let me ask you, because you're a dad. It's a busy week for you. How's the family and school and all that going down? You all pretty ready to go, or is it a kind of a nightmare right now?
No, actually, well, and I have to give props to my wife.
Yeah.
She takes the brunt of it. She's the one that's more or less anal retentive about that
Gotcha.
kind of thing.
She's the one the taskmaster of making sure
exactly. And if I interject too much, it just
you mess with the flow.
Yeah,
I get you.
And she's excellent at it. And I mean, we've only got 2 left. And they're both in middle school, so it's kind of one of those hide and watch things.
Sure.
You never know what exactly the teachers are going to ask for. The supply list is either overbound or underbound.
Mm-hmm.
You still need this, this, and this, and this, so you're making 4 different trips to the store to get extras.
Sure.
So we've over the years, after sending 6 others through, we've learned that send them the first day with a spiral notebook and a pen.
Sure.
Get actually what the teacher wants, and then we'll go make a mad dash, and hopefully Walmart has it.
Yeah, that's the mixed bag that is the school supply list. It's a generic list for everybody, and yeah, you get everything, you're probably covered. But what ends up most happening is you buy a bunch of stuff, and then maybe 60% of it's what you really need, and the rest is kind of, just nice to have that you may use once in the year, but more likely gets, depending on the age of your student, either gets crammed in the wall locker at the bottom or crammed to the back of the desk there.
Well, my wife was going through our school supply box, crate, and she comes up last night and she goes, well, the grandbabies have a lot of crayons left. Because we don't necessarily need crayons anymore, but I think we've got 16 boxes left.
Yeah. And then the other thing that happens, and that's usually the end of the school year, that's when you find all the coats that the kid had for the school year because they all come home.
Yeah. Or you find those and you look at it and go, that one wasn't yours.
Yeah, right.
Well, it looked like it. It's not.
Put that in the lost and found.
Exactly. Take it back on the last day, put it in the lost and found, and hopefully they can use it next year.
Yeah, absolutely. But I know that's the time of year, and your family, like everybody else right now, going through those things. So
it's good, though. But, I mean, it's just with everything up in the air.
Sure.
But you have to, I mean, if anything, last year taught us to be flexible.
Yeah. But I also,
to the point of breaking.
Yeah, exactly. You got to, because nothing seems set, especially when it comes to kids in school and education right now. There's nothing set in stone, really, other than, well, I guess the dates. That's pretty set in stone, I guess. But
maybe.
But, we this is also one of those times of year where it is a transition period. This is, we're kind of going from that summer mindset to back to our year routine, in essence. That's kind of school kind of dictates that. And so I'm guessing, for what Damon does here in the world of New York life and things, this is probably one of those times a year where a lot of families sit down and think about this kind of stuff as well. It's like, oh, the kids are back to school. They're starting 4th grade. Maybe it's time for me to start thinking about college plans and things like that. And sometimes we get reminders of that because every time the kids go into a new grade, that, man, they grow up so fast. You kind of, it's a reminder to us as a family that we need to get on the ball with some of this.
It really is. And Mike, it's kind of interesting because you can break the year out into different segments depending upon, who you're talking to.
Yeah.
During the summer, I focus mostly on business type scenarios because they're round the clock.
Sure.
They're still focused. Whereas families during the summer, they're scatterbrained. They've got kids at home, they're on vacations, they're doing this, they're doing that.
Sure.
So you're right. Realistically, now kind of starts a short period of time, August, September, October, that, a lot of families start thinking about the planning mechanisms. Mm-hmm. What do we do for little Johnny as he's, are we looking at college funding? Do we think he's even going to go to college?
Sure.
And there's different paths that you can take depending upon, the scenario. I mean, so realistically, you're right. Mm-hmm. This time of year is a a big hit for families to really start digging in and going, wow, we haven't done X, Y, and Z.
Sure.
We need to start looking at it.
I would imagine, other than maybe the first of the year around tax time, people think about it. I would say, other than that time of year, I think this time of year is probably like a busy season as far as people and families just it's just the life cycle, and it's that area, and it's because, let's face it, kids are going to school, kids, the dreams of talking about the kids, you kind of, they're getting exposed to new things, they're starting to go into that path towards adults, and then you're thinking, oh yeah, we got to get that ready for them, and because when they turn 17, 18, when they graduate high school here, what's next? And like you said, there's so many options. I would say, let's face it. When all parents are probably hoping when their kids are in elementary school, saying that they've got a plan for a future for college or some kind of thing like that. But college is such a different direction nowadays. I mean, yes, you have your 4-year traditional, go get your degree, and that's still probably the main way people do things. But people go to trade school. People go to specialized schools or specialized extracurricular vocational. None of it is free.
No.
So regardless if you have a child that plans to go to Harvard or plans to go to the vocational tech school, none of it's free. And you as a parent want to help your child be whatever path they go. They've got the money and the direction, all the things they need to go to follow that dream. And that's so, like you said, you're kind of like, you don't know college or what, but almost every child's got to have some kind of extracurricular activity to.
It's interesting, Mike. It's like in talking to employers and parents and everything. We skipped a generation of trade schools, and now we're coming up short on people that actually know trades. There for the longest time, everybody pushed 4-year education. So everybody went and got their degrees. Well, then once they got out into the workplace, they realized all the degree positions are filled.
It's supply and demand, just like anything else. You want to be a lawyer, great, but if everyone else wants to be a lawyer, there's only so many lawyers we can have there.
And it doesn't matter which direction you go, or if you've got a degree and now you're going back to learn your trade or whatever it is, it all costs money.
Absolutely.
And I've got 2 in college right now. And different aspects. We've got, I've got my senior that just graduated from Roswell High, and he's going out to ENMU and ENMUR, sorry. And, he's figuring out what he needs to do to qualify for different scholarships and everything. So that way, when he goes on to finish his degree, he still has his lottery scholarship and all that.
Sure. Well, he hasn't tapped into all his resources
exactly.
yet. Yeah.
And then I've got my other one who finished up at NIMI, and now he's going to finish his bachelor's at in Portales.
Nice.
And different avenues there. What does he need to do to try to maintain lottery scholarship there and make sure, because finances are huge.
Absolutely. And of course that's another person in another conversation, but if you've got family that's going to school, there's lots of scholarship money out there. The first thing you and your family need to be doing is beating down the financial aid office at the institution you're going at and file and apply for every obscure scholarship out there, because there's millions of dollars every year that goes unclaimed because people don't know that kind of stuff. And I know that's another conversation for another thing, but we're in that world. Go talk to those financial aid offices and get all the free money you can.
Certainly.
Why not?
Yeah. And you have to beat your children over the head.
Yes.
In most instances, to stay on them, because it's not just going to fall in their lap.
Absolutely.
They have to be proactive, but it gives a great opportunity, a great learning thing for them to take it upon themselves to go out and seek that out.
Absolutely. Speaking of funding and education thing, and that's something you and I have talked about 100 times with what we should do, but what most of us don't do or the same things. But to be honest, if you're that young couple starting out, and I know you're just graduating college yourself, you're like, I'm not saving for college. What are you talking about?
Right.
I'm telling you, even before the kid's born, sometimes if you found the one, your spouse that that's the one you're going to have your family with, it's easy now. You could just easily set up something where you're throwing $5, $10, $30 a month over the thing here and letting that build or whatever. And Damon can talk about the different specifics and all that. I'm just giving you a generalized idea on this.
And there's several different paths that you can go.
Yeah.
Depending upon, if you're market based or if you're not, depending upon the risk structure of you yourself. And especially getting started early,
Yeah.
you can start a market-based type at 529 plan that really, gives the opportunity for grandparents, great-grandparents, aunts, uncles, cousins, siblings, whoever can all be set up to fund that plan.
Turn it into a big pool area.
Exactly.
And then birthday checks and what have you go right into that thing. And next thing you know, who knows, by the time the kid's old enough and able enough to go to college, there might be $100,000 or two sitting there ready for them to do that.
There can be.
Yeah.
Especially when you stop and figure, well, the grandparents, the toys that you normally buy that break within, a week's time, take half of that or the entire thing and buy them something small and then say, hey, later on they'll realize that you're dropping that money into an account.
Sure.
And believe me, they may not like that you're not giving them a toy, but when they're going to college and can leave college without a loan.
Yeah. Well, just look at this. How many high salaried positions that young people have right now? And I'm talking doctors, lawyers, and things, and they're paying huge percentages of their current income in student loans because they didn't have this. So, yeah, you're thinking, well, shoot, you're on easy street now. You're a doctor. You're a lawyer. Well, no, you're not. No. They're broke too. Just because they make a lot of money doesn't mean they have a lot of money.
It's all cash flow. I mean, it's like every day, living paycheck to paycheck or having enough in reserve that you can have a little bit of extra.
Yeah.
But it's the same scenario. They went to school an extra 8 years to get that degree, and each one of those years has a huge price tag.
Absolutely.
So they may be living paycheck to paycheck just like you're living paycheck to paycheck. But it all comes down to how you use and how you budget and how you plan those dollars to make sure that you get the biggest bang for your buck.
Yeah, absolutely. And doing this smart planning for your kids now can save them that headache. So when they do get their degree or go in their career path they're focusing on, they're planning on their next step, like getting their house, getting their family together, saving for your grandkids' college, and not paying off their student loans and paying off. And next thing you know, they hit 40 and they're like, all right, now I'm ready to start saving for my kid.
Right.
I just paid off all of mine. And that's the world we live in now. We got people that they're not thinking about this stuff till later because they're too busy spending the first 10 years of their work experience paying off all their college loans and fees they occurred because they weren't, families weren't smart about planning that when they were young.
And Mike, one of the things that, it surprises me is young families or middle-aged families, whatever it is, even if they're living paycheck to paycheck, they've got it in their brain that I can't do anything more. And that can't be furthest from the truth, because if you realistically, most of our bill paying and everything is habits.
Yeah.
And if we don't, and one of the things that I do with most of my clients, just because it's just a series and a process that we go through, is looking at their budget and figuring out, well, is there something that we can curb, something we can change to make those dollars available?
Absolutely. And it's small budgetary stuff. It's like you said, we're habitual, but I also feel like we turn our brains into things we know we think we need to have, but we really don't. And it's really, sometimes it's just looking at your budget and seeing what you're spending, and you're looking. I know coffee's the one everyone talks about because it's god awful expensive to buy a cup of coffee that's not from your house.
Right.
And then you look and you're like, you just spent $100 a week on coffee. What could you done with that $100 and just bought a thing of Folgers and made it at your house here or something?
Yep.
I mean, that's the kind of stuff you could. And I know people are like, but I gotta have my. It's like, yeah, you think you do.
You think you do.
But what what you'd rather? Would you rather drink your plain old 30-cent cup of coffee every day and be fine with that, and then have your kid, being successful and everything? And I know the joke's going. It's like, what happens when you get older? You taken care of? Maybe that kid's your retirement.
Well,
that's what we're talking about. Do you need that cup of coffee now?
Exactly.
Yeah.
And one of the things that misconception is, if I can't do anything more. Well, if you're not doing anything, at a bare minimum, protect your family.
Yeah.
I mean, you may not be able to put money aside for their college. You may
Sure.
not be able to put money aside for this or that, but at a bare minimum, putting a safety net, a life insurance policy in place to make sure that, okay, just think, if you're the breadwinner and all of a sudden your income is gone, where does that put your spouse and your children?
Yeah.
I mean, they may be out on the streets. They may be selling their home to get the equity out of it to try to survive. And that means they have to move into an apartment out of the school district that they're normally in. So now they're going to a different school, all those different things. So even, I mean, the planning mechanism boils down to what you can do now to better your life or theirs in the future.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's and to be honest, that's what you do for a living. That's your job in a nutshell. It's, you know, you always see things on like social media. It's like, describe your job in one sentence without using your job title. That would be kind of yours.
Yeah.
It's just, you know, hey, I'm the guy that's saying, you know, you have enough money now to make sure you're good in the future. And and I know and here's the problem is when we're young, when we're all in our 20s and everything, and we got our whole life ahead of us, we feel indestructible. Like, oh, I can work. I'll be fine. If this blows up, I'll just get another job. Well, as you get in your later in your 20s, you start getting into your 30s, you have a kid, you start saying that starts changing. And then at some point you're not young anymore, and you just can't go and switch jobs because you're not as viable as you once were when you were 20 versus when you were 30s. And it's a cost of doing business. It's just businesses out there, you know, there ain't a lot of 50-year-olds starting a new career. I'm just saying because it's really hard for someone to do that at that age. I mean, I'm not saying it's possible. It is. It's possible. But that's not the path most people, most companies aren't looking to hire a 50-year-old because what kind of investment are they getting? They're paying top dollar for something they're only going to get for a few short years, and they'd rather spend less money on a 20-year-old and have them for 20 years.
Exactly.
That's how they think. So you've got to think like that yourself, and that's where Damon comes in and says, you know, let's face it, when you're 50, the last thing you want to be doing is bucking and fighting for another job. You're going to be thinking about my times. I'm thinking about pina coladas and beaches and things like that. That's what you're starting thinking about, you know?
Well, and 50 slapped me last year.
Yeah, and I'm right there. I'll be 50 real quick, and I'm right behind you on that. And it's not old no more. But when you're 20, you're thinking by you're 50, you're gonna be, you know, what am I doing now? I'm tea times and all that.
Yeah.
And, you know,
I mean, I've had a couple of couples come in and they sit down and they talk. Well, we're planning on retiring by 50, 55, and I'm like,
better
wow,
get started.
Yeah, I mean that's great. That's ambitious. And then that even brings in more planning and thought process because most people are putting off retirement until they hit 65 at a minimum. So that way they're eligible for Medicare.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Because anytime before that, medical insurance, health insurance is so expensive.
That's true.
That when you try to retire and you still have $1,000 a month health insurance, that cuts into the budget quite a bit.
Absolutely. My in-laws, my father-in-law, and they owned their own CPA business for years. They had a long, you know, and they retired the business a couple years ago, and it was a couple years shy of them hitting Medicare age and things like that. And they were so happy because they were paying for it out of pocket and everything else. They could afford to do it. They planned. They're smart. He's an accountant. Usually, not a lot of broke accountants out there that are pretty good, but that's just a type. Don't go to an accountant that's broke. That's one of those just old wise or just sage advice. You know, he's probably not going to help you out if he's broke themselves. But anyway, but yeah, when he was, I swear, when they got old enough to hit Medicare, you would have thought they had a little party.
They
and
hit the lottery.
Yeah, because next thing you know, they were getting all kind of procedures done that they were waiting to do.
Well, when you stop and figure, when you can
it makes sense.
You know, if you're paying $1,000 a month for health care, and then all of a sudden, you know, it's cut by 2/3.
Sure.
Yeah, you just won the lottery.
Yeah, absolutely.
You gave yourself, you know, an $800 a month raise.
Yeah.
So you've got a lot of more expendable income.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of things that go into making sure that plan lasts as long as you need it to. And you know, the biggest concern of retirees, which the majority of the baby boomers, the tail end of the baby boomers are hitting it right now. Their biggest concern right now is outliving their money. And that's scary. You know, just whenever I started in the industry 12 years ago, the rule of thumb was, you could pull 4 to 5% out of your nest egg and not outlive your money.
Mm-hmm.
That number's dropped below 3.
Wow.
So if you figure if you've got $1 million sitting in your interest bearing account, you can pull out $30,000 a year and be pretty safe on not outliving your money. But you stop and figure 30,000 is not.
That's not a lot to live off.
No, it's
of.
not.
It's not.
Unless you've got all your bills taken care of.
If your house is paid for.
House is paid for, cars are paid for, nothing major is coming around the corner. But then you got to stop and figure. You've got, at that age, that's when major health issues come about. That's when, and surprisingly enough, a lot of retiring elderly couples are selling their home and buying a condo, and now they've got a 30-year mortgage.
Mm-hmm.
And, realistically, you kind of shake your head and go, why in the world would anybody sell a 70-year-old a 30-year mortgage?
Yeah.
But, with longevity, and you figure, well, the bank's looking at it. If they die, I get to repo it.
Yeah.
And I've had, money paid on it all these years.
They're going to get their money regardless.
Yeah.
Yeah. See, I was smart. I bought the condo in my 40s, and I'm going to live in it until.
There you go.
By the time I'm old, it's paid for.
There you go. Without a doubt. I mean, the old mantra still stands. If you can buy it early, pay it off before you retire, and that's the house you're going to stay in.
Sure. That's our plan.
Yeah. I mean, it's great, but there's a lot of people out there that are, once they retire, now they're getting a 30-year mortgage on a new home.
Yeah. Now, my wife and I don't have kids, so that's a whole different conversation. What my wife and I can do versus what a family of 4 can do is not the same thing, and I understand that.
True. Because without kids, then you don't have the aspect of grandkids.
Yeah, exactly. I got no one that's going to take care of me when I die because I burned all those bridges. I'm just kidding.
But you know what? That lends to a whole nother aspect of long-term care insurance.
Sure. What's going to happen there?
Because if you don't have the kids or grandkids that are willing to take care of you, which, by the way, most of them aren't.
Yeah.
So the parents that are delusional thinking, yes, my long-term care plan is my children. Yeah, you better talk it over with them first.
Yeah.
But if you don't have that plan, then putting long-term care insurance in place is pivotal to making sure that your financial longevity lasts.
And I will tell you from firsthand experience, long-term care is even if it's independent living, without all the medical, is very expensive per month. It's more than your mortgage. I'm very much sure than what you're paying right now. Odds are pretty good. It's probably more than what unless you're paying like $3,000 a month for mortgage fees.
Yeah.
That's I think we were paying 1,500, it was under 2, but it was a lot a month. I don't remember the exact number, and that was just staying. Now, granted, there's some expenses. She didn't need a car no more. She needed she could go grocery. But my wife and I were joking about that because when we were having her there, and I'm like, how old do you have to be to move in here? It's like they do your laundry once a week. They clean it once. I just walk down here and give food, and then the rest I could leave and come and go as I please and do. This ain't a bad gig here. I'm kind of,
No.
We're thinking about it. We're like, we get 50. We're just going to live here and let them cook and clean for us, and then we'll go shopping and do our thing when we.
There you go.
But again, it's going to cost like $2,000 a month for that kind of service. So.
Right. And that's on the cheap side.
Yeah. And this was years ago. I'm sure it's gone up. Now,
and the price is increasing, and especially with long-term care, when you look at the statistics, it's outrageous that, 3 out of 4 people over the age of 65 are going to require some type of long-term care.
Mm-hmm.
And then when you stop and figure the cost of that, and it's sad when you stop and think that one of the plans that some people have is divorce.
Yeah, that's a plan.
That's a plan, because
Interesting.
if one of the individuals goes into a long-term care situation and they are using up all the assets that are within the estate,
draining down the other one,
they leave the spouse with nothing. So halfway through, one of the common plans is divorce each other. The healthy spouse takes all the assets. The unhealthy spouse is left basically indigent, and qualifies for Medicaid. So that way the other spouse at least has something to
Sure.
continue retirement on.
Yeah.
But then the downside of Medicaid is they determine where you receive your care.
I was about to say, I think that would be a last ditch option. Like there's not much hope for getting this person back to healthy status again.
Yeah. But when you stop and figure, if the healthy spouse is left with absolutely nothing in retirement,
Sure.
I mean, they have to sell the home. They have to,
I know if I was me and I was in that situation and I'm the one in the hospital bed, I'd say, yeah, divorce me to protect you. I would do that in a heartbeat to do that for my wife, if that's where we were at in that world. But
yeah, but crawl into her head, Mike.
I know.
Is she going to say, yes, I'll divorce you,
No,
the love
she
of
would.
my life that
Yeah.
I've been with for umpteen years?
Yeah.
And now you're going to say, I'm divorcing you?
Yeah.
No, that doesn't roll off their lips quite that easy.
You're right. But in my head, I'm like, to protect
exactly.
I would,
but
yeah.
logically speaking, you're going, yeah, that's a great option. But emotion comes into play,
Sure.
and you go, no, that's not.
Yeah, and then when you're no longer together, one's passed on. How do you explain that one in the legalities and all that stuff? It's like you're married. No, they were married for 30 years, and then they divorced in the last year of their marriage.
Right.
That's a weird.
So you mitigate that by sitting down with me and talking about long-term care options.
Exactly. They don't have to worry about who's divorcing who here in 30 years. So, just all the time. So we probably need to wrap this up. But this is the point we're talking about here. This is. We want to put the bee in your bonnet and think about this thing. I know, obviously, back to school time's kind of one of those periods of transition, but regardless of where you're at with your family, whether it's a brand new family or, you've got the kids and raising them, or maybe you're on that other side. The kids are gone through college. You're looking to do now what Damon can sit down and talk with you about this kind of stuff. Obviously, the earlier the better for any kind of planning. The younger you are, the more time you have to get your affairs in order or decide the path you want to go down. But excuse me, the earlier you do it, the more flexibility that gives you too. That's because let's face it, life happens. You have whims in life, and you're like, I want to be a spelunker now or something, and those things happen. But with a little planning, you can financially make for those things to happen.
Make sure you've got your life insurance before you go spelunking.
Probably.
Because not only it gives you that sense of, that ability to think, okay, if I don't come home, everything's taken care of.
Yeah.
But also it's cheaper beforehand.
This is true. Yeah. The extreme sports guy is probably paying more in insurance than the one who isn't.
Definitely so. So, if that's ever an inkling or skydiving or anything like that, make sure you plan ahead.
Just a little bit.
Just a little bit.
Just a little bit. That's what I'm sure those Richard Bransons and those guys do back when they were. Because he was kind of a risk taker back when he was younger, if I remember right.
I think so.
And
well,
so
he still is. I mean, figure he's bouncing around in space for 10 seconds.
Now he's got more money to do things with more. Before, he's sitting out there bungee jumping and doing stuff that billionaires shouldn't be doing. But anyway.
Exactly.
But if you want to have that problem where your people are telling you got too much money to be doing that kind of dumb stuff, Damon can help you get that.
Let's hope so. Yeah, there you go.
That might be the slogan.
You have to have the inputs, though.
Yeah, this is true. Maybe that's your slogan. I can get you rich enough where people tell you to stop doing dumb stuff.
There you go. That works.
But you can call Damon. You can call his office direct, 575-623-0803, or you can call him on the cell, 575-626-4298. What's probably your best way to is calling you or
calling? Yeah, definitely.
Of course, you have your Facebook. You can look under Damon Graham New York Life. I've linked for Facebook and all that as well. You can go to websites as well too. This is or email ddgraham@ft.newyorklife.com, which no one will remember. Just call. Just call Damon.
It's easier that way.
Yeah, 575-626-4298. That's the cell, or leave if he's not in the office, like right now. He's obviously not in the office. 575-623-0803.
That's it.
Awesome. Well, thank you, sir. As always, appreciate the visit, and thanks for working with me there. I know I got convoluted last week, and things got moved around. And
hey, for good reason.
This is true.
It was a good talk.
This is
I
true.
listened to it definitely.
Yeah, we had. Anytime I get like politicians or people that are not from here. I'm at the whim of their schedules.
Well, and you were able to have back-to-back Thursday, Friday with ENMU.
Yeah, that's true.
So
yeah, that was cool. Paul Weir's that was kind of a neat conversation with him. So, and they're doing a lot of stuff up there. I get it. That's inside baseball. I don't think I was supposed to talk to the coach that much. I kind of gave them dates and they just took them all. So,
hey, it is what it is.
They're fun conversations though.
Yeah,
I enjoy talking
they were
to the
good.
coach. So, awesome. Well, Damon, as always, appreciate it, and
thank you.
We'll see you next time.
Definitely. Thanks,
Don't work
Mike.
too hard, and good luck with back to school week.
Appreciate it.
Maybe you get some golf time this week. Be like, oh, you gotta go hit the links.
I doubt it. Anything's possible, though.
Anything is possible.
Yep.
All right, it's 8:49. Let's get you up to date with local news.